Hello, my beautiful light brides. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Neon Noire. I'm a half Italian, half Canadian drag queen living in Belgium. And if you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Today, we are playing my favorite game, FAB or Drab, where we rate the looks of Canada's Drag Race Season 4, Episode 5, and let you know if they are fab and fabulous or drab and awful. So without further ado, let's get into it. This week's runway theme is steampunk. And for those of you who do not know, steampunk is the idea of taking this old Victorian era, a little bit of that analog technology, and thinking what the future would be from that perspective. So it's a little bit history, a little bit futuristic, mashed together to give you this really crazy gear-oriented looks. Honestly, steampunk is something I really love. I think it's super cool and edgy. It's something I've wanted to explore with myself, but I really haven't had the occasion or the look. So I'm really keen to see what these queens have to offer. First up, it's Denim, and Denim is coming in with a bang, mama. She said, you wanted steampunk? Let me give you steampunk. She comes in this like kind of coppery, oxidized armor that gives you both old gears but also super futuristic. She's paired it with these elf ears and big pigtails. She definitely looks like an elf princess coming straight out of a fairy tale. She is giving you fairy tale steampunk fantasy and looks fantastic from head to toe. Denim definitely understood the assignment. She took the theme, she made it her own by bringing in these fairy tale features like the wings and different other elements. And all in all, she looks good from head to toe. And that is why for Denim, it is 100% gonna be a fab mama. Next up, it's Kitten Kaboodle, and she's coming in her steampunk fantasy. That is right, she went a little bit more traditional with her steampunk, using the traditional top hat and goggles and the half mask. She's paired it with this corseted bodysuit with all the ties and gear stuck to it. A little feather for that extra va-va-va-voom. Thigh-high boots to give you that hooker fantasy. And a little red lip just to give you that little like pop of everything. Kitten Kaboodle definitely went a little bit more traditional with her steampunk, but I love it. She hit every little detail you needed to hit to give you the fantasy. Every little detail looked put together and thought through. None of it looked cheap, which sometimes you can definitely get with steampunk because people try to do a little bit too much, but she did just enough. What I do really love about Kitten is she did go a little bit different and by adding these pops of purple in her hair, pops of purple in her dress. Purple is not necessarily a traditional steampunk color, but I love it because it brings it to another dimension. All in all, the only thing that I would maybe change is that it looks a little bit too clean and perfect. Steampunk, it's gotta have that like gritty, old vibe a little bit to it. But other than that, that's a small detail. If you looking perfect is a crime, then she definitely falls for it. And that is why for Kitten Kaboodle, it is gonna be a fab. Next, it's Kiki Coe, and Kiki Coe is coming in this black, almost Matrix version of steampunk. She paired it with this crazy, beautiful, long hair that's a little bit mohawk with a bunch of little things in it. She's got these armbands on her that are all these gears, and she is head to toe black and wearing pants, may I say. So Kiki Coe definitely took a more modern interpretation of steampunk. Steampunk is generally a little bit of that old Victorian style mixed with the futuristic style. She definitely seems to have gotten more of like today mixed with tomorrow. So it is definitely more of a fashion modern twist on it. I do like it overall. I think that there's some really cool moments, and I love that she did something different than what you would expect from steampunk. However, I'm a little bit of a traditionalist myself, so for me, I really wish I would have seen some of that oxidized metal, some of those browns mixed in, some of those, some of those like traditional cues of steampunk. So I personally feel she didn't really hit the assignment to the 10th degree. And that is why for Kiki Coe, I think I'm actually gonna go with a soft Drab. I know, right? I'm a bad, bad bitch. Next, we have Aimee, Yonce, Shennel. And Aimee, Yonce, Shennel is coming in this bar maiden, old Victorian, futuristic fantasy. So Aimee has the opposite issue of Kiki Coe. Aimee went completely old school, completely Victorian, giving you bar saloon, chugging beer, a little bit of that lederhosen German fantasy with these headlights. I feel that this is really a little bit lackluster. It's definitely giving you the old part of steampunk. I'm missing a lot of that technological, futuristic aspect. I feel like she could have amped it up a few different degrees. If I was to change a few things, I would say this has got probably the right basic elements to it. I think like that's the base of the outfit. I would just add gears, wires all over her bust and her dress, and topped it with the traditional steampunk top hat and the little glasses, and I think it would have made all the difference. So yet again, I just feel like it's not right there for Miss Aimee, Yonce, Shennel, and that is why for her, I'm gonna have to go with a drab. Sorry. Next up, it's Nearah Nuff, and Nearah Nuff is coming in this like black steampunk saloon girl with her little black mohawk and silver gears in it. She's paired it with a silver metallic arm full of technological advances that's giving me a little bit of like Jax from Mortal Kombat, and these thigh-high boots to really give you that hooker fantasy. All in all, I will say that Nearah Nuff suffers from a lot of the same symptoms as Kiki Coe. That is that they both went all black and took a little bit more of a modern take on it. I do prefer Nearah Nuff's better than Kiki Coe's because the technology is in silver and definitely stands out a little bit more. On top of it, the garment does have ruffles and little pieces that give a nod back to that Victorian era. It is a little bit more futuristic. So that is why for Nearah Nuff, I'm gonna go with a soft fab. Next up is Melinda Verga, and Melinda Verga is coming in as like the witch from steampunk. She comes in this full black attire with lace detailing, the classic steampunk hat, and goggles. She's paired it with this Victorian sort of necklace and this Victorian style dress garment. Melinda's look definitely looked a little bit more old school than, let's say, Nearah's and Kiki Coe, but I think that actually really helps her because she actually can tap into the more historic side of steampunk. I think that the lace detailing and the classic shape of the garment plus the hat really give you all those cues that you need for it to read steampunk. When you start analyzing the garment very closely, you realize that there's a lot missing on it that could be better. For example, I wished her hat had some gears or some rhinestones on it just to give it that little zhuzh. And I wish she would have just added a little bit of a corset underneath her breast with some gears on it just to really complete the look from head to toe. But the one thing I will say is that you have no hesitation that this is steampunk. You have no hesitation that this follows the category. And that is why, even though it is not like 100% there and modern, I do feel like without analyzing it too carefully, it gives you that impression. And that is why, for Melinda Verga, I'm gonna have to go with a soft fab. Next up, it's Aurora Matrix, and Aurora Matrix is coming in this steampunk-inspired Spider Queen attire. She's got like this copper dress that's got a little bit of that like oxidization on it, this old school hair with ooze coming out of it, and then these giant spider's legs coming out of her back. She is Spider-Woman coming out of steampunk world. This is how you do steampunk. You take an idea, a technology, you blow it up, you make it fantasy, you make it rustic, you make it futuristic, you make it old, you make it new. This hits every single thing from left to right, and it is fantastic. I would not change a thing, and that is why for Aurora Matrix, it is 100% a fab, honey. Next up, we have Luna Dubois, and Luna Dubois is giving you sexy model, high fashion, steampunk. She's coming in with her corset showing off all her body, thigh-high boots with the classic steampunk mask and hat. Guys, I struggle with this one. I struggle with this one because she looks so damn good. Her body looks good, her corset looks good, and it all fits exceptionally well. When you stop to stare at it, you realize that actually there is hardly any steampunk in it. The two steampunk elements she puts in it is the classic hat, goggles, and mask. And then she calls it steampunk. And you know what? She sold it to me. What I both love and hate about this is that if you lose the mask and hat, it doesn't read steampunk at all. And you could probably use this outfit for something else. But we are looking at everything as a full package. And as a full package, it does read steampunk in her own individual way. I struggle because it is not as cool, as innovative as someone like Kiki Coe or Nearah Nuff, who I thought were both quite modern, and she's also doing modern in a different way. For some reason, I just like this version, and I think it is so cool and so and that is why for Luna Dubois, for this simple outfit, I just have to go with a FAB. Next up, it's Venus, and Venus is coming in this auburn red attire, wearing her mask and barely any clothing. It's definitely giving you Mad Max with a little bit of Lady Gaga from the VMAs. It is definitely Venus because she is showing her body. But is it giving me steampunk? It's giving me steampunk-esque. I feel like her, again, she went into a different direction, more of this like Mad Max sort of attire. And I'm missing the part that I love of steampunk, which is that like metal armor, that those gears, all of those like stereotypical tropes, which I really, really love. I feel like I'm missing here. She definitely went more grungy with it. All in all, she definitely looks good and it definitely fits Venus's aesthetic. So I understand 100% why she did what she did. But personally, like I said, I feel like I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist when it comes to what I like in steampunk. That is why I wish that her bra and her dress had some more like gears or technology on it to really like amp up that old style of it. Maybe some additional ruffles to get a little bit more of that Victorian in it. I wish it had some of those more traditional cues. And that is why for Venus, I'm gonna have to go with a drab. She looks great, but it's just not what I envision when I say steampunk. So that is it for this week's runway. So who had my drab of the week? Well, my drab of the week has to go to Aimee, Yonce, Shennel. Honestly, everybody else did a pretty good job, and this is the only one that I actually thought was an actual drab. So sorry, babe, for a second week in a row, I have to give you my drab of the week. Step your pussy up, lady! But enough about the negative, let's get into the positive. Who had my fab of the week? Well, my fab of the week has to go between two people, which is Denim and Aurora Matrix. I was struggling to decide. I think that Aurora's concept was much more original and it had a much bigger impact on stage, but I felt that Denim's was better made and had a lot more intricate details and definitely had more of a fantasy to it. All in all, I'm gonna go with Denim. I decided to go with Denim just because I felt that all the details were there, and once you start really looking at it, you can really see all the thought she put into it, and I feel like that needs to be acknowledged. And that's why I chose Denim as my fab of the week. Woo! And that is it for this week's episode. Guys, gals, and theys, do you agree or disagree with my comments? Well, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I do read all of them and try to reply. And while you're there, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I am trying to get to 1,000 followers by the end of this series, which I know is a big ask, so please help a queen out. Once again, my name is Neon Noire, at Miss Neon Noire on all social platforms, and I'll see you next week. Bye!